So as you get closer to retirement, you may begin to look at, how do I maintain my standard of living through retirement? And this is a really complicated issue to answer as you start to unpack it. Because one of the things that we've realized is that a retirement isn't always linear. So what I mean by that is you don't always spend an even amount throughout retirement. Though oftentimes when we're doing planning, we plan this linear curve with expenses increasing for inflation. But the reality is the way that retirements actually play out is a little bit different. And it's different for every individual. So, for example, what we find is that a lot of times when people first retire, they're really eager. They have all this newfound time and they want to go out and spend it, right? Every day is a weekend now. So what are all the things that we're going to do with our time? So all those travel trips that you've been planning your whole life, now you want to start tackling those, and the gardening project in the backyard, and the epic golf trip or hunting trip or whatever it is for you. In the beginning of the retirement is usually a faster paced spending. And then often that curve tends to slow out as you begin to slow down and come into your retirement a little bit more. And then sometimes it can even spike back up at the end based on medical expenses or long-term care or things like that. So, it's really important that when you're doing your planning, you begin to stop and take the time to think about, what is your standard of living in retirement? And begin to think through and design what your ideal retirement is. When working with goals, I always recommend that you start with the ideal situation, even if in the back of your mind you think that it would be absolutely impossible to achieve, because then you can always work backwards. And that's why when we're doing planning, a lot of times we use a simulation, a tool where we can run through all these scenarios and think of it as like a flight simulator for your retirement plan. So that way, if it crashes, we can crash in the simulator without having to crash in real life. And so by doing that, that can help you get an idea of what retirement would actually look like, and then begin exploring, is my ideal retirement, is this standard of living that I want to maintain really achievable? And if not, what are the things that I can do to either make it achievable, or what sacrifices am I willing to make? So hopefully that gets you on the right track and begin looking at and thinking through if you can maintain your standard of living in retirement. And before you do that, you need to determine, what is your standard of living going to look like in retirement? If you have questions, I'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and give me a call on the number below this screen.